Hello everyone and welcome back to NovaLogos Audio English. In Chapter 1, we learned about the importance of the soil. Today, in Chapter 2, we focus on the potential hidden within the smallest of things. We are looking at two very short but powerful stories, the parable of the mustard seed and the parable of the leaven. If you have ever felt that your efforts are too small or that your progress is too slow, these stories are for you. They remind us that the kingdom of God and our own personal growth do not start with a loud explosion. Instead, they start quietly, invisibly, and humbly. Whether it is a tiny seed in the ground or a bit of yeast in the dough, greatness is already there, waiting to expand. Let's explore the language of growth, transformation, and influence. Section 1. The Narrative of Growth and Transformation. Let's listen to the text from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 13, verses 31 through 33. Notice the contrast between the small start and the large finish. He set another parable before them, saying, "The kingdom of heaven is like a grain of mustard seed, which a man took and sowed in his field, which indeed is smaller than all seeds. But when it is grown, it is greater than the herbs, and becomes a tree, so that the birds of the air come and lodge in its branches." He spoke another parable to them. "The kingdom of heaven is like yeast, which a woman took, and hid in 3 measures of meal, until it was all leavened." Section 2. Vocabulary Deep Dive, Potential and Influence. These parables use everyday domestic and agricultural items to explain a massive reality. Let's look at our key vocabulary. First, the word grain. A grain is a single, small, hard seed. In English, we often use the expression, a grain of truth, or a grain of salt. It emphasizes that even the smallest unit has significance. A single grain of mustard seed might be tiny, but it contains the DNA of a giant tree. Second, consider the verb lodge. The text says birds come to lodge in its branches. To lodge means to stay or live in a place for a short time. In a modern context, you might stay at a mountain lodge. In the parable, it suggests that when you grow, you become a place of safety and rest for others. Third, look at the word yeast, or leaven. This is a substance used in baking to make dough rise. It is tiny and often invisible once mixed, but it changes the entire character of the bread. In English, we use leaven as a verb to describe something that spreads through and modifies a whole. Her sense of humor leavened the serious atmosphere of the meeting. Fourth, notice the phrase, 3 measures of meal. A measure is a specific amount. What is interesting here is that 3 measures is a huge amount of flour, enough to feed over 100 people. This highlights the incredible power of a tiny bit of yeast to transform a massive amount of material. Finally, the word leavened. This is the state where the dough has risen and transformed. It represents a completed process of internal change. By the end of the year, the new culture had completely leavened the entire company. Section 3. Symbolic Wisdom, Internal versus External Growth. These two parables show us 2 different ways that growth happens. The mustard seed, visible expansion. The mustard seed grows outward. It starts as the smallest seed, but becomes the greatest of plants. This represents how a small habit, like practicing English for 10 minutes a day, eventually becomes a massive skill that everyone can see. It provides branches for your career and your life. The leaven, invisible transformation. Yeast works from the inside out. It is hidden in the flour. You cannot see the yeast working, but you can see the results when the bread rises. This represents the internal change in your character and your way of thinking. True wisdom changes the flavor of your whole life. The law of small things. Never despise small beginnings. God often hides the most powerful realities in the smallest packages. The size of the start does not determine the size of the finish. Section 4. Advanced Language Pattern. Comparatives and Superlatives. The text uses comparatives to show the dramatic change. Smaller than all seeds, but greater than the herbs. Using these structures helps you describe growth and progress effectively. For example, this new method is smaller in cost, but greater in efficiency. The problem was smaller than we thought, but the solution was greater than we imagined. Learning a language starts as the smallest task, but it becomes the greatest asset. To make your English sound more natural, try using the smaller than, greater than contrast when describing a transformation or a surprising result. Section 5. Practical Application. The Power of the Tiny Step. How do we apply the mustard seed and the leaven to our daily lives? First, trust the process of hiding. Like the woman hiding the yeast in the meal. Keep hiding new knowledge in your mind. Even if you don't see immediate results today, the transformation is happening beneath the surface. Second, be consistent with your grain. You don't need to plant a whole forest today. You just need to sow one grain of effort. Read one page, listen to one podcast, speak one sentence. Third, become a D-ray tree for others. Remember that your growth is not just for you. As your English and your wisdom grow, you will be able to provide shelter, advice, and help to the birds in your life, your friends, family, and colleagues. Consolidation and review, deepening your understanding. Let's review the key lessons and language patterns from this chapter. The kingdom of heaven is like a grain of mustard seed. Everything significant starts as a single grain. When you start something new, don't worry about being small. Worry about being planted. It is indeed smaller than all seeds. We often focus on the smaller than part and feel discouraged. But being small is simply the first stage of being great. When it is grown, it is greater than the herbs. Grown implies time and process. Growth is not an event. It is a direction. If you stay in the ground and keep growing, you will eventually surpass your previous limits. Birds of the air come and lodge in its branches. Your personal success becomes a public blessing. This is a beautiful way to think about your goals. You are growing so that you can support others. Hidden in 3 measures of meal until it was all leavened. The word until is the most important part. It suggests that transformation is inevitable if the yeast is present. Be patient until the process is complete. The smallest seed becomes a tree. This is the law of potential. Everything you need to become a giant tree in your field is already inside the cox seed of your current efforts. A leavened life. A life that has been leavened is one that is transformed by truth and wisdom. It has a different texture and a better taste than a life without them. Lodge in the branches. Think about who might lodge in your success. Maybe your children will have better opportunities, or your company will thrive. Your growth creates space for others. Thank you for joining us for Chapter 2 of NovaLogos Audio English. Don't be afraid of small beginnings. Whether you are a mustard seed or a bit of leaven, you have the power to change the world. If this message encouraged you, please like and subscribe to our channel. Your support is like the yeast that helps us grow and reach more people. We will see you in Chapter 3, where we will explore the mystery of the seed growing secretly. Until then, keep planting and keep rising. Goodbye.